Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Monday, February 27th. Time is 6:01. We're going to call this meeting to order. I will ask for approval of the agenda. Motion reads that the agenda for the council meeting of February 27th, 2023 be approved as presented. Moved by Councilor Kirkby, seconded by Councilor Burton. Discussion on the agenda? No? All in favor? Third item on the agenda is declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none. I forgot to mention, welcome the guests in the audience. The Fort Town Night Run and from Grenville Futures. Okay, Nolan, thank you. So we're going to go, and we have regrets from Councillor Young tonight. And online we have Councillor Lockett and Councillor Burton on Zoom. Welcome, everyone. So the first item under 4.1 is a delegation from the Greater Fort Town Area Charity. Michael Rose. Michael, you got the podium.
I'll let Dan start.
Great. So Dan Gilpin, Vice President of the Greater Fort Town Area Charity, and obviously you've met Michael Rose already as President. I'll start, and then Mike will jump in partway through. I wanted to structure or put into context the Fort Town Night Run. We've had the Fort Town Night Run. We started in 2017. Raising money specifically for the Venture Scouts to go to Iceland. It was a big trip at the time. They did go. We did raise money for them and had great pictures and lots of memories. But we kept going after that. We kept the run going, and we actually evolved the run into charity, registered charity with Revenue Canada. Excuse me, that was in 2020. And we've been going strong ever since. If anybody's applied to Revenue Canada for charity status, you'll know that it's not straightforward and it's not given away easily. So we worked hard, mostly Mike, worked hard to get us registered. And I'm gonna read our mission statement. It is the mission of the Greater Fort Town Area Charity is to support youth-driven initiatives and provide active living and outdoor appreciation. So our focus is on youth. Our focus is on youth in the area, and the money that we raise goes back into that activity. We've primarily been doing the run as a source of funds. We've done lotteries, we've done Steampunk Festival, thank you. The run hit its stride in 2019 when we actually had 400 people registered and have been running through the streets of Prescott. Those some may remember I won't say chaos, the entertainment we provided. COVID threw us for a loop. It threw everybody for a loop. In 2020, we did a virtual run. 2021, basically didn't do anything. 2022, we did a twilight run in the port of Johnstown. We did a steampunk festival at Windmill Breweries. We did a, what did I miss? Steampunk itself and twilight run. And all to try and raise money. What we learned from that exercise was we have to hit a minimum number of people to actually earn money as opposed to just getting everybody together. And that number is around the 400. So this year, with our theme of top community with heart and
Town of Prescott, community with heart.
And
race with no waste.
Race with no waste. So yes, we want to reduce waste. We want to reduce excess costs. So we're focusing on that this year. Community support in Prescott has been phenomenal. From local businesses, I'll run a couple, right? The Port of Johnstown, obviously, Canadian Tire, O'Reilly's Independent Grocer, Giant Tiger Warehouse, I already mentioned, Windmill Breweries, Strader Ferris, and a few others, as well as the days of the runs themselves, where we get community businesses, families and people in the community decorating their homes and coming out and cheering the runners. It's a real blast to be part of the run itself. And the people that we help. To date, since 2017, we've raised over $31,000, and all of that money has gone back into the charities we support. We support the Scouts, as I mentioned before. We started and support the Youth Movement Project, which Mike will dive into. And what did I miss?
Air Cadets, so the Prescott Air Cadets. We've also helped out Connect Youth. We've helped out Figure Skating Club. Definitely a number of different youth initiatives.
And looking to grow, right? Looking to build relationships and looking to build, to become more part of the community and the youth that we support, or that we were trying to support. And really that's, the ask tonight is for specifically to support the run, but the ask tonight is also to keep us in mind as when you're talking with other organizations and other groups that we want to interconnect with and we want to be part of a larger solution. I'll jump to you.
All right. So with that being said, our mission is about actually helping youth. That is the reality. And how do we do that? The Youth Movement Project. It's our baby. It's a physical health and mental health program that we created. Currently, it is free and it will remain free as long as we're fundraising and actually doing it well. It takes youth from grade 4 to grade 12. It involves a physical health and a mental health program. Physical health, because we're actually looking at what's called movement, right? We're actually working with kids on how to use movement in order to actually talk about their thoughts, talk about their feelings, talk about coping strategies. And so the reality is that we blend it all together and we have guest coaches coming in. And so kids never do the same thing every week. They're coming in and they're doing Zumba. They're doing yoga. They're doing volleyball. They're doing pickleball. They're doing basketball drills. Last week, we had 16 kids show up for soccer drills. And it was Danny Powers from Brockville that actually came in. And I know that he's doing a lot of good work over there, and he's actually helping out here too, and he's working with Justin. So, or at least he knows Justin very well. So the reality is that we are averaging between 10 and 20 kids per week. We had to actually get a bigger space. So we went from the St. Lawrence Academy gym to the South Granville District High School one in Gym C. It's every Wednesday from 6:30 till 8 o'clock. And parents, if they have their kids and they're bored and they're trying to do something, guess what? Please come on in. It's a drop-in also. It helps out. With that being said, there's also a cross-age peer mentorship program. This was the biggest thing for CRA, that this program had something for youth to become leaders, for youth to actually become mentors to the younger youth, and to help them out with all their social skills and the coping strategies that come with it. So it really helps out because it means that the kids, as they're growing up and they're coming into the community and they're helping out, they're actually helping out the younger kids to go with it. And so, and we've seen that. We've seen it in action. One of the testimonials we've had was somebody who works at the South Granville District High School who came to us and said, by the way, the kids that you currently have in your program, we know them. We know them from other schools. And we just want to let you know, thank you. Because the reality is these are the kids that need this. These are the kids that they need to feel connected. They need something. And guess what? They're in Prescott. And so we're aiming for the kids in Prescott, and that's our number one goal. With that being said, I'm also here to help with the Fort Town Night Run. May 6th, we actually are hoping to have a 1K and 5K. I've already spoken with some of the counselors to find out more about how we can actually bridge the connection between Town of Prescott and the greater Fort Town area charity to make this successful. The reality is that a few things actually came to mind. One, we want to keep it inside of Prescott, but we need to actually connect it with Prescott's resources, Prescott's source of community. And so we chose this year to want to do it directly from the Leo Bueve Community Center. It is at the heart of Prescott. There's a lot of things happening there. There's a lot of activities happening there, and a lot of people go there for different things every day. So definitely, it's in front of Fort Wellington. If people want to visit Fort Wellington, they can do so when they come back, which, by the way, we also, the Fort Town Night Run brings a lot of tourists back for the whole summer. So that's why we always ask Fort Wellington, the Shakespeare Festival, to actually have stuff out so that way people can come back throughout the summer and enjoy what Prescott has to offer. However, we also want to note how much we want to make this central to Prescott. This year, our major theme for the Fort Town Night Run is, and I believe, if I am right, you guys are rebranding to some degree, calling it TOP, the Town of Prescott. Am I right in saying that? Somebody told me that. I thought it was just so cool. And if not, please steal it from me. But wait, somebody told me TOP. So we thought that was great. So we put it out there. TOP, a community with heart. And it's going on the t-shirts, it's going on the medals, and it's basically going in everything that we're advertising. Everything that we're basically putting the run, it's all about bringing it back to the Town of Prescott. So that's one of the things that's been actually good. A race without waste, this is a new concept, but it's definitely helping out right now because we're seeing already that we're not actually spending money for frivolous reasons. And I'll give you an example of this. Every year, every race director will always tell you, when it comes to t-shirts and medals, you always overspend because you assume so many people, depending on statistics, how many people came last year, you assume that so many people will hopefully come this year. That has not been true with COVID. COVID took us all for a ride, and the reality is it stole a lot of our profits. So this year, we did what every race director is pretty much going to start doing. And we're probably one of the first races that are just literally putting it out there. But I heard the Ottawa Run is actually going to be doing the same thing. And that is, you want to have a t-shirt, you want a medal, no problems. It's a different ticket. So basically a ticket to the race, you get your chip timing, you get your insurance, you get to be in the Town of Prescott, it's only $30. Nice and affordable. If you want a t-shirt, $15 more. If you want to have a medal, it's $7 more. And we've already seen it from the people who are buying tickets. Some want the t-shirts, some want the medals, but not everybody. And you'll often get it from runners. They're like, I have 150 medals. I never look at them. Although one actually told me that they did. They looked at our Star Wars one from 2019. I was very, very happy about that. So we're definitely cutting down on waste. We're making sure that the charity is actually making more money. How does that bring you guys into this conversation? Simple. Counselors also brought me solutions. Whereas before I seemed to be playing in mud, now at least I was actually probably closer to the pond, a little bit more shallow waters, and I could see something. There are two ways to actually do this, at least that was described to me. One, if we're doing it from Leo Bueve Community Center, the reality is a canteen in there. And a canteen can actually sell a lot of food. You're used to it. You're used to actually selling a lot of food for hockey tournaments and everything like that. And it's quite a source of revenue. If we could bring a lot of people in, as we are actually planning to have a DJ to actually be part of the run also and everything, it's a source of revenue that the Town of Prescott could probably make, which is the canteen. The second way also is that we want to give back to the Town of Prescott, but we have to be within CRA's tight little ideas of how to do so. So we discovered that there's a youth swimming program that's done through the Town of Prescott and it goes through your charity. We would be happy to contribute and donate to it. Now, this is the kicker. We can't just only promise how much money because I don't know how much money I'm going to make. So there's a reality to this, is that depending on how many tickets we sell and how much money we make, I have to top off the youth movement project to make sure that that program continues. So that is a $5,000 budget. Right now, we've got 3,200 in the bank. So if nothing was to move, which of course that's a big lie because I've got guest council, coaches coming in and we give them, what's it called?
Stipend.
Thank you. I like it, Vice President, knows all those words. We give them a stipend of $65 for the guest coaches coming in and sharing their expertise. The reality is we'll probably be about 2005, 2006 by that time. That means I only have to top it off 2004, 2005. If we had 300 people that came to the race and we had the 100 kids, it'll give us $10,000. That means there's $7,500 to play with. I am just throwing out numbers just for fun, by the way. Okay. However, I've done the math. $7,500. What I propose is the following. We'll give you 20 to 25%. If you give us volunteers, we'll give you more. The reason why, this is how we've always done it. Depending on how many volunteers are out there, usually the scouts give us about 50% of our volunteers. The air cadets give us about 25, and then South Government District High Schools gives us all the kids that basically didn't finish all those hours they needed to finish off. So we usually then divide it amongst the percentage of volunteers. If the town of Prescott had people that actually want to volunteer for the race, and actually there's a water table that's going to be right in front of the town of Prescott, maybe the two corners to some of the course marshalling, as long as somebody identifies to Julie, who is the volunteer coordinator, who you're representing, whether it's the scouts, the air cadets, or the town of Prescott, then we divide. And that's how we do it. So the more people come, the more money that's made, the more it goes to the town of Prescott. That's my proposal. So,
Let me just see if there's any questions from
Yes.
council. Councilor Campbell?
To you. When you're saying you're basing it out of the Leo, are you also asking, obviously, for the Leo to be open and washrooms to be able to use?
yes, so all that information was sent to Matthew about asking for the arena, do a community grant application for it. There's also an arena, I guess, map that you have to actually show. We always use Plan C because it's a little bit more of an open concept. And yes, we would probably need the bathrooms that are inside the arena. And we will need to count how many there are. And depending on how many people there are, then we would actually also provide hobbies outside if needed.
Okay, so I guess my question is, then you'd be asking of the town, not just volunteers, but staff time, right?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Kirkby?
A couple questions on both, and I guess Mary's kind of asked that. Did you calculate kind of how many hours or how you're looking for a day, right? Use of the Leo, right? And then
Right, so for the new Levine arena, usually we would open it at noon for people to come in for the registration. So only a part needs to be, can even it'd be done outside as long as it's good weather, because when it comes to actually giving out the kit bags or the swag bags, then we can give that to the people, or what they call race kits. I apologize. But definitely it would need to be open by about 4:00 in order to actually then get people to come inside, and definitely the canteen can be open, and then 6:00 is when the starts.
right.
Kids start running at about 7:00, and the 5K is at 8:00. It'll all be done by about 9:30 maximum.
Yeah. So I guess my main question, Michael, is did you make your request clear to
Yes.
Matt of all the stuff you require from the town, including road designation, any kind of shutdowns, all that stuff's there?
Right, we never shut down. The only part of that we shut down is the one in front, the road part in front
Of the Leo.
New Levine.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
The rest is all corridors. So with the lights, we set up a corridor of 4 feet from this, so that way traffic can continue, and we have volunteers to make sure that everything goes well. And it's nice to see that also Town of Prescott brought everything down to 40 kilometers, so if somebody gets hit, it's not as bad. Just joking.
And then I guess the other question is about your youth program that happens on Wednesday nights. So I think that also is King Kitchen's night also. And is there any coordination there with some of your youth, or do you see some of your youth using both services?
we'll see the parents or the grandparents go up to the King's Kitchen, and then the youth will come to actually be at the Youth Movement Project. So we've seen some of that happen.
Yep.
So.
Okay. So, and by the way, I don't really care where the youth come from, but do you have a number or an estimate of how many come from Prescott and how many are from out of town that are using the program?
It's about 75% Prescott and 25% out of town right now.
And most of them are South Grenville. Would you say students?
All of them are in the Prescott schools.
Right. Okay.
So then it's either Wellington or St. Mark's or South Grenville District High School.
Okay. I think that's it. I mean, I was at a Tri-City, or a Tri-Town, I should say, event prior to being counselor. And, I mean, one of the guest speakers was, a youth movement speaker from Lanark in Perth, which sounds kind of like a similar program to what you're offering here. So, I don't know if I have that in my notes, but I could probably find the information and, you know.
Exactly what I was talking to. We
Right.
built some relationships. Certainly the Kemptville area and Lanark are obvious, easy reaches.
Yeah. So, no, that's all I have. Good.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkby. Councillor McCollum, do you have any questions for?
I did, but they've been asked, thank you, so.
Perfect.
I don't.
Thank you. What about Councillor Burton or Councillor Lockett? No? Councillor Lockett?
No, asked and answered.
Thank you. All right, well,
I'd only one last request, and I will put it in writing. We would love to have the mayor there at the event. And the reason why is because there are 2 awards that we give to the town of Prescott, to the Prescottonians, right? One is the Business Spirit Award, which is the one where all the businesses in town actually decorate and support us, which is really cool. So definitely, I think that the town of Prescott should have their mayor actually give that one away. But the other one, which is the night itself, on the run, the houses can actually on the course be actually lit up, and definitely when we did Star Wars, people had all kinds of decorations there that which was really cool. And I think it'd be great if the mayor would actually provide that award, because again, it's the Prescottonian.
can I wear my Chewbacca outfit?
Next year, actually, yes, because this year it's May 6th, right? Next year's May 4th.
Oh, may the 4th be it.
Next year, we're gonna have fun with Star Wars.
Both, right? Just show up.
All right. I can do that. Thank you.
Perhaps those red joggers of yours that in the closet for a couple of years could get some exercise.
Get those in the 1K. All right, thanks, Michael. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
So we have Miss Katie Nolan from the Grenville Community Futures Development Corporation. We have some slides. Would you like us to put that?
Yeah, that'd be great, thanks. So, good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. So my name is Katie Nolan, and I'm the Executive Director of Grenville Community Futures Development Corporation. And if we can just flip to the next one. My objectives for being here tonight to have a little chat are, first of all, I did want to connect with the still fairly newish council and provide you all with an update on our current programs and services so that you understand what we have available for your local businesses and your community. And I hope that in having conversations like these, it will spark some ideas for collaboration down the road. We really do see ourselves as a partner in supporting you in your economic development goals, and want you to be aware of what we have available in order to do that. So if we can go to the next one. This is review. I apologize for those of you who are very aware of who we are and what we do, but I did want to just provide a little Grenville CFDC 101 here. So we are a community-based not-for-profit. We've been in the community since 1990. And we receive operational funding from the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. And we are part of a network of 61 groups like us, organizations like us, supporting rural Ontario, and 267 across the country. So really proud to be a part of that national initiative supporting rural communities. We work with a volunteer board of directors. We are accountable to them. They are members of our community who care about local businesses and the work that they do and the jobs that they create and the communities that they support. So really pleased to have a wonderful board that really supports our mission. And our mandate is really to assist with growth in the local economy. So we serve Grenville County, which I know isn't really, like, it's not a real thing, but Augusta, Edwardsburg, Cardinal, North Grenville, and Prescott are the communities where we work. So I thought this vision and mission, I didn't write this. This was my wonderful predecessor, Heather Lawless, and her board at the time that came up with this. But I really love this vision and mission, very succinctly talking about what we try to do. So our vision, a prosperous local economy and vibrant community, and how do we work towards that vision by investing in jobs, businesses, and innovation. So we will come back to that in a minute. I just wanted you to have a sense of who we are and what we do. If we can go to the next one. So how do we implement this mission and vision? Mission and vision. Really three main lines of programming. We work with businesses on lending, and I'm going to get into a little bit about our lending program and what makes it special, our business advisory services, and community economic development. So first off, we talk about business loans. So we can do regular term loans for small businesses up to $300,000. We can provide customized financing, either working ourselves with the businesses or topping up from another financial institutions. And we work with the businesses at all stages of development, from startup to expansion, to even succession planning and exiting. And we can provide that financing for a whole range of their business needs. We also have, if we go to the next slide, a microloan product that provides businesses with a streamlined application process, the best rate that we can offer them according to our agreement with our funder. And with this loan, which can be up to $20,000, is really designed for the startup, for the sole proprietor that maybe needs that cash injection to get them through a time of growth and get them to the next phase of where they want to be with their business. I want to emphasize that our lending program is special and does fill a gap. So we pride ourselves on having very positive and constructive relationships with other lenders in the community. The business bankers that are here in Prescott and throughout the region, BDC. But what we do complements what they do. We work with the businesses that for whatever reason are not eligible or disinclined to work with traditional lenders, to help them through those stages so that they can get to the stage where they can work with a traditional lender. So to do this, we offer flexible repayment terms. We don't have prepayment penalties if a business wants to prepay their loan. And I think really most importantly is that we are here in the community and we work very closely with the businesses every step of the way, guiding them through the process and helping to find flexible solutions, which we did have to do quite a bit during COVID. And I think because we are an organization whose mandate is economic development as opposed to profit, we have that ability to work very flexibly with our businesses and provide a solution that will help them get to where they need to go. So our business advisory services are another part of our business support programs. We can help businesses with a whole wide range of information needs, business plans, helping them come up with and refine business ideas, reviewing their operations. But one thing that we really try to provide as a value added to the businesses is our strong network in the community with other resources. So be that the small business center, local economic development staff, really making sure that we're connected and we are aware of what's available to the business, other provincial or federal funding opportunities for them, so that we can provide them with a bit of a no wrong door kind of approach to business advisory services. So none of our business advisory services carry a cost to the business owner. That's provided free of charge. And we prefer to meet the businesses at their location, but of course they're welcome to visit us on Water Street if they want as well. So that, leaving for a moment the work that we do one-on-one with businesses, the other really important thing that we work on is community economic development. And I think, as everyone in this room knows, economic development does involve a lot more than the private sector. We know that our businesses are a very important pillar of our economic prosperity, but it does take more than that to have a thriving rural economy. So we try to support that in whatever way we can. If we go to the next slide, these are some things that I think speak to what it takes to truly have a prosperous local economy and a vibrant community. So a non-exhaustive list here, but we need strong community organizations. Like the gentleman that we just saw, I was incredibly inspired by the impact that they're having in the community. Active volunteers, effective systems of, different types of business support services to ensure businesses have what they need when they need it, support of local governments that are implementing strong strategic planning that is geared to economic development. So those are some things outside of just the private sector that I think we need for a prosperous local economy. And we try to support those things with a range of different types of community economic development programs and resources. So for one thing, we really try to stay involved and engaged in economic development strategic planning in our community. We were thrilled to have been a participant in the recent economic development strategic planning exercises that both Prescott and the Township of Augusta went through. Active participation with local community organizations, recognizing the very important role that they have in contributing to community vitality and making communities where people want to live and invest. Our network in the community, and every so often, dependent on our current programming and our government priorities, we can provide seed money for key initiatives. So, great example, we were thrilled last year to be able to partner with the Economic Development Department to provide some bridge funding for Digital Main Street so that there was no gap in service when that program was between funding periods. So I really encourage, we work very closely with the economic development staff here doing incredible work, but that connection and understanding what your priorities are in your upcoming projects, we really want to be able to explore ways that we can support those initiatives. So if we go to the next slide, I wanted to put in a plug, if you haven't heard, for a workshop coming up that really deals with this exact topic of the broad list of assets and ingredients that are required for a prosperous, thriving rural economy. My former colleagues at the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs are putting this on. It's free of charge, March 8th in the afternoon in North Grenville. So it is geared towards councils and their staff to provide an opportunity at the beginning of the council term to explore your desired approaches to economic development. And I think if we go one more, a really huge shout out to the wonderful businesses that we are so privileged to work with. It's really an honor to be able to be a part of the impact that they have in the community. And I would be remiss if I didn't provide you with a little bit of a shout out to them. And that concludes my presentation. I just encourage phone calls and visits and the conversations as we go forward.
Thank you, Katie. Is there any questions for Katie Nolan today? From Councillor Campbell?
Hi. When you say no cost to the business, does the business have to come in looking for a loan and then get all this extra help, or can they come in?
No, we provide business advisory services to any business, regardless of whether they're a loan client.
Okay, great.
Councillor Lockett or Councillor Burton, do you have any questions for Ms. Nolan?
I don't at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate you coming in and meeting the new council and
Likewise.
look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move on to number 5, new business. Under 5.1 is a request to amend section 232 of the municipal act. Oh, it's,
It's traditional that the mayor read the, but
motion.
I know it's my motion. All right, I'll read it. I have no problem with that. I would just like to say though, Ruth, you look like you've been in the sun an awful lot. And the way you're
Yes.
sitting, it looks like you have a beanie on top of your head going around with that fan.
It's my halo.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll read this. Excuse me, whereas the Municipal Act 2001 provides elected officials with the prescribed declaration of office, and whereas Section 232 of the Municipal Act 2001 states that the person shall not take a seat on the council of a municipality, including a person appointed to fill a temporary vacancy on an upper tier council under Section 267, but not including a person appointed to act in place of head of council under Section 242, until the person takes the declaration of office in the English or French version of the form established by the minister for that purpose. And whereas the prescribed declaration of office, item 4 states, I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And whereas the current declaration of office forces a duly elected official to swear allegiance to the King rather than the country, province, and community from whence elected. And whereas the province of Quebec recently tabled Bill 4, which would amend the Constitution Act of 1867 and result in abolishing the requirement for elected officials to swear an oath to the King before they can take their seats in the legislature. Therefore, the Council of the Town of Prescott requests that the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing consider amending the Ontario Municipal Act by removing Section 4 from the declaration of office or making it optional, and that a copy of the resolution be sent to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and all municipalities in Ontario.
Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Would you like to move that motion?
Obviously.
We have a seconder. Seeing no seconder, this motion will not move forward.
Can I say something?
Sure.
In 4 terms that I've been on council, I have never encountered a council disrespect another member of council by somebody not seconding a motion such as this, whether they intended to vote on it or not. It is now we have 2 new people here, a third one somewhere in a hotel room in the south, and Leanne, I don't know where you are. But to not give the opportunity to a member of council who obviously has put a lot of thought into it, talk about something that is very important to him, shows, in my opinion and in my experience, a considerable lack of respect for that person. And that's all I wanted to say on the topic. I'm severely disappointed in my fellow council.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor McConnell.
May I?
Sure.
Through you, Mayor. As you know, Lee, I'm a new counselor, right? I'll be honest, I came here not supporting it. I didn't have any kind of inclination of what you just talked about, though, to be honest with you. So maybe that is some training, but it sounds more of not something that's required of the council, right? So I would say that I'm here to represent the people of Prescott, the residents, and the feedback that I had from my constituents or residents was not to support your motion. So to support your motion, right, would go against what is the feedback that I've taken from the people that have supported me. So there's no disrespect, but I mean, anytime you put a motion forward, you have to be up to accepting that you will get maybe no support on it, right? To just support it, even if you didn't support it, would be a waste of our time. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkby. Well said. Yeah, I don't think it's anything personal, Lee. It's just if no one's going to second it, it's not you, it's the motion.
I'm going to put this down to the inexperience of the other three members in this room.
I don't think that's necessary.
Because it is a disrespect, and I'll remember it. I'm not happy about it.
Okay. We're going to move on then. There's no presentations tonight under 6. Under 7, we have approval of the council minutes. Motion reads that council minutes dated February 6, 2023 be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Burton and Councillor Campbell, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Great, thank you. Under section 8 is communications and petitions. Under 8.1, we have a resolution brought forward by Councillor Kirkby, RE Town of Petrolia's resolution of support for school board elections. You still want to bring that forward, Councillor Kirkby?
Yes.
Okay. Matthew, do you have a little commentary on that?
Sure. So I think what this particular motion is trying to convey is that municipalities do run a municipal election at the same time as they're also supporting the school board elections. And for some municipalities in our area, North Grenville would have more responsibility than the town of Prescott because we report our numbers to them and then they move forward. In terms of the town of Prescott itself, we don't have a lot of additional cost in relation to it. But certainly we understand that some municipalities, especially when you get further north, have a great deal more work to do than we would. So I think that's really what it's trying to convey, and just recognizing the fact that while they're done at the same time, there is some additional effort by some municipalities to make sure that they run smoothly.
Okay. So is there support on the table to move this resolution?
A comment before we get that far. I'm glad you mentioned the wider school board territories because that's certainly a factor, but locally the incremental cost to run a school board election at the same time that we're running ours really isn't even worth considering, just considering the fact that the use that we get from school board property for no cost to the town other than what we pay in our school board taxes. For example, the soccer fields at South Grenville, the gentleman who was here earlier mentioning the use of Gym C, the dinners that are put on at the high school, the use that we get from school grounds far outweighs any amount of money that we would spend on elections. I don't think this is something that we really need to get behind.
Okay. Anyone else? So we have one speaking for, one speaking against.
So it's just, I think it's just a matter of bringing someone forward or making the motion, seconding, and then discussion.
Okay, there we go. Look at the wrong person.
I do have a draft motion, if council wishes, that council of the town of Prescott support the town of Petrolia's resolution regarding school board election.
You want to move that motion?
Oh, move that motion.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burton will second it. Do we want further discussion or are we just going to call the question?
The only thing I will through you.
Sure, yeah.
What I would speak to is taxpayers pay for schools, they pay town taxes, they pay Ontario taxes, right? To me, this is a school board initiative, whether it costs money or not, right? It's the fact that this is an election that happens at a school board that represents multiple schools, right? And I just feel that the separation from the town and the school board should be separate and should be financed by the appropriate people or groups, organizations that are holding these elections. And so that's where I come, is just the separation of the two. I get what Councillor McConnell is saying. There is great community use of the fields and the schools and stuff like that. I will remind you that they are Ontario tax funded, right? And at the end of the day, we should have access to everything that is open and paid for by the taxpayers of Ontario and the town of Prescott, where it makes sense in common use of fields and facilities.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
I think you'd get more voter turnout if we kept it all together. I mean, it's hard enough to get people to come out and vote, but school board, a lot of people don't pay any attention to if they don't have kids or whatever. So if it's on the ballot and they're there and they've paid a little bit of attention, but I would think it would really drop the voter turnout for school board elections.
Through you, I believe it still could be on the ballot, right? The funding of it, if you read here, if there was to be an overrun of funding, it would be covered by the school board versus covered by the town. That's all.
Councillor Lockett or Councillor Burton? No? Okay, that's good. So we have a mover and a seconder, so we'll call the question. All those in favor? We have 1, 2, we have 3. So we have 3 and 3, so it doesn't move. We only have 6 today.
Yes, sorry, I didn't see, so
We had Councillor Burton.
Councillor Curry, yourself? Okay, yep, so it's defeated if it's a tie.
That's fine.
All right, thank you. We're going to defer 8.2 because that was a resolution brought forward by Councillor Young. We'll just defer it till next week when hopefully Councillor Young is back by then. 8.3 is a request of support from the Prescott Curling Club. That's included in our package here. Do you have a motion for this one? Okay. Is there any questions about Mr. Whitehorn's letter that I've included here? They just want our support in looking to get a grant application for safety reasons. So I didn't think that was something you have any trouble with. Yes, Councillor Burton?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. So has he applied for the community grant by chance?
No.
Okay. Are we directing him in that area?
So just as a point of clarification, I think they're just looking for a letter of support to attach to their application to a provincial funding body, as opposed to any monetary funding from us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a question about that? No? You have a motion for us?
Through you, Mayor Shankar, I have a draft motion that states that council directs staff to prepare a letter of support for the Prescott Curling Club.
Okay. I'll go ahead and move that, if I may. And with seconded by Councillor Campbell. Any other questions? All in favor? Passed. Thank you. Okay, number 9 is consent reports. We had an information package. Is there anything in that information package you'd like to separate out? Councillor Burton?
Thank you. No, actually, just a comment. I just want to congratulate our 5 crossing guards that was recognized by the Optimist Club in Spencerville. And I just wanted to congratulate each and every one of them and thank them for their dedication to our community and our children to make sure that they cross very safely.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Anyone else from the consent agenda? All right, so the motion reads that all items listed on the consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by Councillor Lockett. Or you have a question? No, you're good? Okay. I can read lips now. All those in favor? Thank you. 10 is committee reports. There are no items under committee reports. 11 is mayor's report. No real thing to report there. 12 is outside boards, committees, and commissions. There are no items submitted for discussion this evening. So we're going to move on to third. Oh, you got one?
No, I just have a question.
Sure.
You said there are no items submitted for whatever.
For discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that items had to be submitted for discussion. In past terms, we went around the table and if anybody had anything they wanted to contribute, they did. I wasn't aware they had to be submitted earlier. Is this something new?
I don't think it's new, Matthew.
So I think it was part of our orientation that we were just going to change it from a round table to just submitting if you want to talk about something that you would submit by the Wednesday before the meeting. And then it can be on there and we have a specified slot for it.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to 13, which is staff report 14-2023, the community awards. The motion reads that council directs staff to proceed with the 2023 community awards as outlined in staff report 14-2023 business, citizen, and volunteer awards recognition program. This report is from Caitlin. Ms. Mallory, would you like to speak on this?
Through you, Mayor Shankar and Council. So in past years, we have run business, citizen, and volunteer award recognition program. We run this on an annual basis. It began in 2013 and over the years has evolved in many different ways and areas where we've done this. In the past, I'll go back only a couple of years. 2021 was a year of COVID, so we chose to kind of celebrate in a different way, and we awarded medallions that year to a large number of citizens, businesses, and volunteers. Last year, which is the most recent, we continued on with our regular format where we honor the business, citizen, and volunteer of the year. This one was held at the Rotary Pavilion only because that was also being dedicated to Candy Alexander. So on a typical year, the community awards will be held at the Hidsman Amphitheater. And we are proposing to open nominations at the end of March, and they're open for almost a month. Most years we do have to extend this deadline. I did bring with me some averages year to year. For a total average across all categories, we might receive 6 nominations. That's being high. The average for business submissions is 2 people or 2 businesses. Citizen is 2.66, so again 2, and volunteer is about 3. So we don't see a large number of nominations, but we do keep nominations from previous years and we consider them annually as well. So this year we are proposing to host it again at the Kinsman Amphitheater on Tuesday, July 4th. That was an alternate location at the Leo Boyda Community Center in the event of rain. Council could wish to host this elsewhere or on another date, but that is Up to you guys.
Thank you, Ms. Mallory.
Thank you.
Is there any questions for Ms. Mallory about this? Oh, sorry, Councilor Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. No, I've been on this committee before. It's a great committee, and it's a great way to celebrate our citizens, our volunteers, and our businesses. So it's a great feel good in the heart committee and part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Burton. Anyone else? Councilor Campbell? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilor Lockett.
I had just a suggestion because I've been on committees like this before and it's really difficult to get people to submit application like Caitlin said. But I wondered if maybe in another year we could do it sort of like a ballot box and put ballot boxes in say the store or town hall and have people just fill out an application and we could contact them and get more suggestions for the people.
All right, thanks, Councilor Lockett. I'm just trying to review who is on this committee.
We haven't set that up yet. We haven't selected. We were planning on doing that as we get closer to the closing date and maybe to update council at that time with what responses we've received.
So is that like Councilor Lockett's suggestion? Would that be something for the committee to decide?
Again, through you, that would be up to council. If council wishes to change, we have yet to put out, included with Caitlin's report was the draft application package. So if council would like to try something a little different, we could. I think staff had thought we could run this year the way we have in the past to give council an idea of how it went. And then next year, come back and the discussion could be had at that point to see if there's any suggestions or changes. But again, if council would like to make any changes, it's up to them.
All right, thank you. Councilor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. In previous years, we have had a tough time deciding between some nominees, several who were very deserving. So I made the suggestion a few years ago that just because somebody didn't get chosen that year, that their nomination is still good for another couple of years. I think council decided on a time period, and I honestly forget how many years it is, but if anybody has nominated somebody in the recent past, they are still in the running, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I think Ms. Mallory mentioned that. Yeah.
And through you, Mayor Shankar, the time period was 3 years.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilor Campbell?
So the financial implications, I'm just thinking with such a low turnout, why, the advertising for the amphitheater and I would think that just presenting it here at council as we did with staff awards, is it staff awards? Yeah. Would be adequate, but I'm not sure what those expenses would have. Are they mostly the medals or whatever they get, or is it the advertising and the refreshments or whatever you do?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. So the cost associated with this that I've listed below is the cost of the plaque. So we issue a plaque to the recipient and we keep a plaque here. Food and beverages that were provided, some advertising and staffing. In previous years, we did host that at a council meeting, so that is also a possibility if council so wishes.
That staff time isn't reflected in the dollar value, though, is it?
Not in this one.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else? I was just thinking, there was some discussion about maybe 1 year doing volunteer, 1 year doing business, and 1 year doing the third one, citizen of the year. That way, you could collect, that's why I was thinking about the committee, collect names for up to 3 years for some of them, right? And maybe it's up to us to promote it more, to try and get people to, or even submit names, but, it's up to the council to decide what we want to do there. Okay, so mover for this motion, moved by Councillor Kirkby, seconded by Councillor McConnell. All in favor?
I'm not sure what we're voting on.
So the motion is, I'll read it. We proceed with the 2023 community awards.
As they have been.
Yeah. Now, we're gonna create a committee, and we'll, as Ms. Mallory said, we'll run it like we did last few years, but then that new committee can maybe get some ideas for next year. Sound good? All in favor?
I thought we did that.
Yeah, I was just explaining it to.
No, but you said we were gonna form a committee. I thought we already formed one a couple of,
No, that was a different committee.
Through you, Mayor Shankar. I think you're thinking of community grants, so.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Same thing every year.
You're right.
That's what I was looking up to. You're not alone there. So have we called the vote yet?
Yes, we did.
And did it pass?
Yes.
Okay, my goodness. Thank you. All right, so that was fun and games, but this is much better. Staff report 15-2023, the 2022 Prescott Drinking Water System and Wastewater System Annual Reports. I'm going to read the motion that council accept the 2022 Prescott Drinking Water System and Wastewater System Annual Reports. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Kirkby, seconded by Councillor Burton. Sorry, Ruth, you're on a time delay. I keep missing you. So we'll get, who's gonna speak to this report, Matthew or Nathan?
I'll take a crack at it and then fill in the gap.
No eye contact there, eh?
So I think, if you remember back to the training that we had around safe drinking water, one of the requirements of the municipality and
anyone that runs a municipal drinking water system or wastewater system has to report on the results of that system throughout the year. So this is what you're seeing in front of you this evening. Both reports were put together by Aqua, who is the town's both water treatment and wastewater treatment provider and an overseer of those systems. And then it also incorporates some of the work that our own staff does as well. So from a drinking water perspective, we're running at approximately a little less than 50% of our capacity in terms of what we're using on a regular basis. We did have an inspection by the ministry in February of 2016. There was no Ministry of Labor inspections. They did go through their internal, it's kind of like a total quality management or continuous improvement audit. And there was 5 minor opportunities for improvements that have been addressed. There was one reference to a non-compliance, and that's where the communication between I believe it was chlorine analyzer, wasn't making connection, and so it lost the trending for approximately 1 hour. That was dealt with, and as a fix for the next time it happens, there's actually a data card now in that analyzer, so that it will record the data if the communication happens to go down. There was no non-compliances. The community, we had 3 complaints. Those are followed up by our own town staff, and in all 3 cases, we were able to resolve them in fairly short order. There were no spills, and there were 3 water main breaks. We average 3 to 5 water main breaks a year. Usually happens in the when you're going through a freezing in the fall or in thawing in the spring. It's just how the ground underneath where the water mains sit might heave in a certain spot, and that creates a water main break. In all 3 cases, we were able to fix them with stainless steel clamps. We take a look at the wastewater side. We didn't have a ministry audit this year. However, we just did a couple of weeks ago. So that's underway, or it's been conducted. We did not have any more spills. We didn't have any overflow or bypasses. A bypass occurs when the system gets inundated, and usually it's in a wet weather event where we're having a lot of rain in a very short period of time, that we do have in some areas where rainwater will come into the sanitary system. Also, in the vast majority of town, residents have their sump pumps put into the sanitary system. So when there is a wet weather event, a lot of infiltration comes into the system, and that can sometimes overwhelm some pumps that we have. In that case, what it does is it hits an overflow point in the chamber, and then it goes out to the river. We're responsible for estimating exactly the duration of that, as well as the volume, and then we report that to both the health unit as well as the ministry. We're happy to say that in 2022, we didn't have any of those events. We did a few weeks ago, we had a major rainstorm. It happened in a very short period of time, and there was a overflow that lasted approximately an hour or two. But our understanding is almost every municipality in Eastern Ontario went into overflow at the same time. So it's not unique to our system. In terms of the rest of the report, you can see exactly what the testing regimen looks like, how often it happens, what the levels are, and that we've done our due diligence. And so this is reporting to council that due diligence does occur, and it's part of that multi-barrier system that when we were talking through the training is taking a look at this report and saying, yes, the things that are supposed to be happening are happening, and making sure that council knows that, and we will be posting these particular reports on our website as well, which is required. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Anyone have any questions on this report? No questions? You're off the hook, Matthew. Having said that, I guess we'll call the question. All those in favor? Yep, passed. Thank you. Carried. Okay, 13.3 is a project ideas priorities review presentation. On you, Matthew.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So what we've done is we've broken this down into several sections. One is projects that have been previously approved or in progress, which we've talked about a couple of times. Initiatives that we felt we could incorporate as part of the 2023 working plan and don't require any additional funds beyond the operational budget or previously identified sources. We have the strategic initiative of residential development, which is not something that I would necessarily see that we need to have a separate project for, but certainly it's part of our strategic plan and certainly something that staff, in concert with council, is very good. We have our health and safety projects, which just have to occur for regulatory reasons. It's not really a choice. All of the other projects that were on the list, and then you'll see 7 Cs, and that's 1 C for each one of you. For council, and then there's an S at the end, which is staff. So highlighted some of the priorities that we felt. So just going to try to go through it. We've already talked about the fact that we have the rec complex, the Edward Street overpass. That RFP closed last week, and we'll be reporting to council next week, hopefully for an approval. Obviously, rescue pumper or the town hall second floor renovations are quite well in terms of the phase 2 amount, or phase 2 portion of it, and then phase 3 will happen later this year. And there's a number of items on there that were previously approved. Page 2, again, quite a few projects that were previously approved, and some of them certainly were ideas that were part of this year's ideas as well. So initiatives in the work plan. So garbage can by boat launch, that will simply happen this spring. The directional signage for beach parking, that was partially finished in 2022, will be fully completed this spring. Improved washroom signage that includes hours of operation, that will be done this spring. The Indigenous sign has been taken down. We're doing a little bit of rework on it, as well as adding the part above to make it so exactly what they are, that sort of thing. The historical self-guided tours, we believe we can do that as part of the 2023 budget for the museum. Partnering with police services, we want to do that on safety messages, and certainly we can highlight those for council as well. Working with South River Minor Hockey as well as the Township of Eversburg Cardinal to ensure that we're making full use of the new recreation complex when it comes online later this year. Creation of a recreation committee, we see that as being part of the 2023 plan, not requiring additional funds. Erecting the regional bus stop sign will be completed this spring. We're just waiting for the ground to thaw a little bit. Standardization of the painted look for the crosswalks. You can see that the crosswalk at King and St. Lawrence and King and George have been changed. The painting will happen as soon as the ground thaws a little bit and paint can adhere to it. Relocation of farmers market, I believe we talked about that previously. Patio furnishings and installations, we can certainly support that as well. Acquiring more promenade furniture, the visitor center display windows, hosting business development workshops that we believe we can do within our current, along with partnering with the BIA and Chamber. Sourcing a larger variety of pole mount banners. We will need to replace the pole mount banners on a regular basis. They do tend to wear out after 2 or 3 years, and we certainly want to put our best foot forward. Installation of the clock tower parking is the BIA is contributing $15,000 towards that, and then marketing materials as part of our ongoing work as well. I did mention that we have the strategic objective of residential development. That's ongoing. This is what council and staff is striving for, so I don't think it needed to be a separate project, but certainly as part of our strategic plan. When we take a look at health and safety projects, that's for replacement for the fire department as well as place structure deficiencies, and both of those are regulatory in nature. And when we get to projects, and so what I'm going to suggest is anything that had at least one that was set as a priority by either a member of council or staff, we will take a further look at that, see exactly what the cost could be and estimate it, and then provide some options around how it could be funded. Not everything on the list I think can be funded, because we still have probably 30 or 40 projects on there. But certainly we can work towards some of those. One thing that I did want to point out for council was that there were some requests around additional transient voting slips. And so we did want to point out that we currently do have 8 slips at the marina. And when voters are away as part of their lease agreement, if they're going to be away for longer than 24 hours, then we have the right to put votes in their slips while they're gone. And so we take full usage of that. What I would also suggest is that this year we're going to work with our dev department and kind of cast that information out a little bit further and wider and see if we can develop enough of a demand that it would actually make sense for us to add additional transient vote slips. So that's kind of going to be my suggestion for this year is let's promote because at this point we're not seeing the demand where we have to add more. So I just wanted to make a couple points on that. And then certainly the list kind of goes from there. There's also discussion around food waste, and at next week's council meeting, the food cycler group that partners with municipalities will be in to do a presentation. It's a countertop food recycler, and I can actually say that I bought one for my wife for Christmas. And she's been having a fantastic time working with it. We now have a Home Depot bucket. It's probably about a third full, and it's been great. So it's basically the exact same concept as what you'll hear next week. And what happens is the municipality can buy it at a much reduced rate. The federal government is giving a rebate to the program. And then a resident purchases the machine for $150 and the municipality subsidizes by $100. So it's a great opportunity to utilize going down the path of that at a fairly low cost. To create a pickup program, we're probably talking somewhere in the neighborhood of just $100,000 alone for the pickup if it's weekly. And then something to do with it after that would be additional costs. So this kind of gets us going down that path at a much reduced cost and thinking about how to do it. Also, I think Edwardsburg Cardinal has had some great success with it. I think they're now in their second program of offering this to residents. And so certainly it's something that we learned a little bit more about at Roma, and that's why they're coming to explain exactly how the program works.
Do we know how many they've put out in Edwardsburg Cardinal?
You have to buy at least 50 per round, and most of them buy 100. So I think they're on their, they've done over 100 already, and now they're on their second 100.
And is there a better deal if you do 50 or 100?
I don't think so. I think it's the same exact amount, but certainly those are great questions that we can ask. And so kind of just, there's certainly a lot of items on there. We will do our best to provide estimates and sources of funding, but that's kind of where we are at the moment. And we would actually come back on the 20th instead of the 6th, just to give a little bit more time to work through some of those estimates.
Perfect. Any questions from Matthew on this? We'll start around the horn. Councillor Campbell, then Councillor Kirkby.
So great ideas, let's do everything, but does this impact when we're deciding the increase percentage of taxes?
No. So what we do is we create the budget so that we're putting amounts into reserve. And every time that we're trying to do a special project, we're trying to find either a funding source or an amount that we put into reserve that we can then pull back out to support the project. So when we create the budget, we try to keep it so that here's the operational budget and this is how much we need to operate the municipality. And in there, there's a number of things that we're putting over into reserve, and then we pull out of reserve for those special projects. So we try to make it so that we're not trying to add additional amounts to our yearly property taxes just to fund one-off projects. And so that's kind of how we'll do it. And so very specifically, we have a building reserve. So that's where we're going to look for doing HVAC and roof repairs for here. We have a recreation reserve. So we'll pull and towards the end of the presentation, I'll kind of show you exactly where that money is coming into reserve and where it could possibly be going out.
Thank you.
Councillor Kirkby?
Yes, through you. The one thing is the patio furniture, right? So the BIA is contributing 15,000. Is there a total on what that cost is?
Yeah, so in terms of, so it's not necessarily the patio furniture, but it is the patio at the clock tower is approximately 34,000. And so in last year's budget, council put aside 60,000 for economic development initiatives, and we've been holding
that. This patio around the clock tower it is, or is it in the actual parking lot?
We'd be in the actual parking lot itself and take up 2 or 3 spaces.
Take up 2 or 3, and how many spaces do we own there? Does Shoppers own some of them parking spaces?
Only right against their building. All the rest is the town of Prescott's.
Take up 2 to 3 spaces there around the tree, or is there an idea of where?
It's probably closer to the clock tower itself, right in the 3 spaces closest to the clock tower.
And then we're going to take up a total of 3 per parkette that's on the street also.
No, just 1 per parkette.
1 per parkette. So we have 3 there. Right, so that's a total of, we're almost at 6. Did you say, I'm sorry, you said 3 in the parking lot and then 3 on the street. So we're taking up 6 parking spots.
So I think it's 5. So I think there's 2 parkettes and then 3 roads and then the 3 in the clock tower parking lot.
The patio will just become a place to hang out after hours or during the day, or?
Yeah, so I think it's a placemaking type of accoutrement for the downtown. And so if you want to spend time in the downtown, that's in lunch or gathering with people, We would certainly make use of them on promenade weekends, things like that. And really, it is a space to gather for people, to enjoy and to have kind of a congregation point that you could take advantage of.
My worry is we'll have the same people there every day, smoking cigarettes, right? Smoking whatever, which is legal, by the way. Using that space, and to me, I'm sorry, but we have a ton of benches. We're gonna have some new parkettes. It just seems like a lot of money to have. Somebody's gonna have to police it, in my opinion. We're gonna have to, is it wood, a wooden patio?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I guess that one there, it's on there, but I'd just like to raise that I'm not in favor of that. And I have some serious concerns about it, about the kind of use it'll get. After hours, during hours, and then what our downtown looks like, unless we have somebody on there every day singing or performing.
Yeah, we can come back with some additional information and provide it to council.
And then I have just one more here. Sorry, Matt, did you say that 100,000 would be the cost if we tried to do the food composting collection? Did I miss? Yeah, it'd be 100.
Roughly $100,000 to do that on a weekly basis.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor McConnell?
A couple of comments, and for the life of me, I can't find the second one here. Anyway, the first one is in regard to fixing the parking area at the base of Center Street by the Deepwater Dock. It's estimated cost of $20,000. This has been on our agenda for at least 3 years now. I think it was 4 years ago that we cut out the asphalt and replaced it with interlock on the east side of that section. The south side was also taken out with the intention of putting interlock there as well. And then along comes high water, which flooded the whole area. And of course, when you have high water, when the water's that high, the waves were washing right back onto the street, not even counting the parking area. 2 years after that, we had high water again. Anyway, I walk through there every day, at least once a day, and the excuse I'm going to say from staff that it hasn't been done by now is because it's washing out from underneath and it needs to be dug down, fixed. That's a total crock. It is not washing out. The only problem with it is when the water gets a little high and the waves come over the top, all that fine gravel that's been putting in there is washing back, and then we have to go and sweep it out again. All it needs is to be gravelled and paved, which is going to be a lot less than $20,000. Given the fact that we've let it go for 4 years now, the actual asphalt that didn't have to be replaced back about another 10 feet is going to have to be replaced. So I would like to see a reasonable fix on that. I would like to see it in the spring so it doesn't sit and look like a mess all summer again. And if indeed we are going to do the interlock at the south end, well, then let's do it. Let's just not keep dicking around with it.
So I think the intention is to fix the gravel area, remove any interlock that was put in, and simply repave, because you're exactly correct. So that when the high waves are coming over, that sort of thing, was penetrating down, compressing it, and it was kind of washing out from underneath. But if we build it back up, put the asphalt down, then we shouldn't have any location of the base.
I agree, because when you walk along instead of in front of Prescott Place, as I do and a lot of dog walkers do and other people do, you don't continue walking along in front of that parking space because half the time people are right out at the water or somebody's there fishing or something. People tend to cut diagonally across to the sidewalk. And so the interlock is really just a waste of time and money there. The other thing, and for the life of me, I can't find it, I don't know where it went, is the replacement of the pavilion at Kelly's Beach. It said, if I remember, well, I know it's on here, but I can't seem to find it again. It said it was at the end of its life cycle. It's looked like it's at the end of the life cycle since I was a child swimming at Kelly's Beach. It doesn't look, matter of fact, it looks better now than it did then. It's been re-roofed. That thing will outlast anybody in this room. Just keep maintaining it. There's no point in replacing stuff that doesn't need to be replaced. We can better use the money elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burton or Councillor Lockett? Any comments on the projects? Councillor Burton?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Just a comment. When are we thinking about starting the recreational committee? Are we going to be partnering with Edwardsburg Cardinal and Augusta on that? Or is it something that we were going to do just for the town?
I think it's both. So we did agree with, as part of the Tri-Council initiative, that we would have a broader perspective one from a recreation standpoint. But I believe also we want to bring together some local individuals and make sure that we understand exactly what the residents are looking for and need and how we can support that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Councillor Lockett? Anything? No, you're good? Okay. Thank you, Matthew. Looks like a healthy list there, so will we get like quarterly updates on where this is?
So the intention is I bring it back on March 20th. We come to hopefully a relatively final list, and then we'll pass it hopefully in April, and then you should receive either bi-monthly or quarterly updates after that.
Thank you. Okay. 13.4, 2023 operational budget as of February 27th. The floor is yours, CAO Marshall.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we're kind of at the point where we get to see both the expense side as well as the revenue side. And so we're going to kind of walk through that this evening. By all means, if there's any questions, just let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. So we're going to go through the budget timelines, the fees and revenue, taxation, budget overview, as well as going to talk about what does it mean when we have the new recreation complex up and running later this year. So we're at February 27th, and so we're right on track. I'm going to suggest that the operational budget review of alignment that's scheduled for next week, we actually hold off till the 20th. And so that way I can also include additional information from the library as well as Walker House. And it also gives us the ability to take a look at these projects at the same time. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. It'll give you a little bit of time to contemplate what that we want to see and where they are. So fees and revenue, and going down into administration, protective services, transportation and environmental, health and social services, parks and recreation, and clinical development. So from administrative revenue standpoint, ONDF, we already know that we're getting the same exact amount as last year, which is 1.588 million. We charge for marriage licenses, and so as well as ceremonies, and you can see that we're a little bit over our budget for last year in terms of 6,000 is what we were aiming for, and we ended up almost at 6,100. We see that as continuing, and we have a very good group that provides that service, and we're happy to be able to support more revenue. Revenue licensing has continued to be down. At one point, a couple of years ago, it was as high as $12,000. Certainly the Nevada licensing, things like that, have decreased over the last several years. And so again, we're trying to aim for an amount that we feel is reasonable. So usually we go back to the previous years unless we know something specific. Administrative fees, so this is small amounts that we might generate over the year. We believe 8,200 is the amount that is achievable for 2023. Dividends, I think you'll remember that we have dividends from Reno St. Lawrence, as well as some other rebates that we receive throughout the year. Short-term interest, so we take all of our excess cash that we have, put it in a high interest savings account. Currently that account is getting just shy of 5% in terms of earnings, and so that's the reason for the increase up to 100,000 for this year. Ceremonies, as I mentioned, we have licenses as well as ceremonies for weddings, and then death certificates, they come in on a regular basis as well, that we process and send on to the government. We do oaths, so that is a commissioner of oaths. We have several on staff and charge $20 if someone needs a commissioner of oath to be able to sign something. Interest on taxes, that's the outstanding taxes that are payable to the municipality. And while it's a good news item that that amount is decreasing on a yearly basis, on the flip side, we generate less interest on that. So it's a bit of a give and take, but then we're able to earn interest on our short-term high interest savings account. And then we also generate tax certificates for approximately $50 per property. And so anytime property changes hands or someone needs to know what the outstanding amount is, then we're able to charge for that. So overall, budget to budget, we'd be up 24,000 or budget to projection of approximately 60,000. When we take a look at protective services, fire, those are the amounts that we charge to other municipalities for the automatic aid agreements, as well as MTO, and there's some other smaller amounts that we receive in the course of the year. Vacant building fees, we had a year of grace, and now we are actually starting to charge for those starting this year. Police, that's generated through two main grants. One is for a community policing program that we support additional hours for the crisis response team. And that's funded by the province, as well as the RIDE program. The province provides amounts for us to be able to perform those checks. Protective services, that is all of our fees that we charge for licensing, as well as fines and that sort of thing. So parking fees or fines and whatnot, as well as you'll remember that we share our bylaw officer with the Township of Augusta, and so there's an amount that comes back to there as well. For our building department, this year we will have several large projects. We know that Wellington House is moving forward, as well as a couple of others. And with this, I think you also in the paper that there was some discussion around Brockville's building department. It is generally, for the town of Prescott, been something that we've had to subsidize through property taxes. This year, we won't have to subsidize, and we will be putting a fairly large amount into reserve to support future years. And so we're very pleased with that, and that was certainly something that we're moving forward. Then provincial offenses is our share of what the joint services at the United Counties collects on our behalf, and then that's our revenue portion. So overall, it's an increase of $60,000 year over year. Transportation environmental, so our OSIF funding, that's the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, decreased from 548,000 to 475,000. We subsequently reduced the paving budget by an equal amount so that we're still able to support the bridge project. There's also small amounts that are charged for traffic. Those might be road closures, temporary signs, those types of things. Sidewalks, last year we put an additional $22,000 in from reserve to be able to support additional sidewalk work. Parking lots is just small amounts that we charge for parking spaces in the downtown and
River route is 31,000 that we put in as part of our share, cost sharing, as well as waste collection is bag tags. We did notice there was a fairly substantial decrease in the number of tons of garbage collected last year, which had a subsequent effect on the number of bag tags. Also, we were expecting a little bit of a decrease in bag tag revenue because people are now able to use pretty much much larger bags than the town of Prescott bags before. So that has had also an effect of decreasing those bag tag revenues. And then waste diversion, the vast majority of that is a funding that we receive from the provincial government to support 50% of the cost of our recycling pickup and moving it out to the recycling route of. From there, we also have health and social services. So there's an amount that we pay is our portion of the debt for St. Lawrence Lodge when they went through redevelopment. A portion of that is supported by the provincial government, and that's the 80,000 that you see here. Those amounts will be coming due and be finishing in 2024 and 2025, which means that revenue stream will decrease as well. But it will be an overall positive net of 160,000 for the town once those are done and no longer have to be covered. From Parks and Recreation perspective, so Walker House generates funds from both the government as well as their fees for memberships that they pay to the town. Rec programming, that is pickleball and some of the other programs that we run that we generate the revenue from. The marina is slated to, again, be cost neutral, as well as putting $79,000 to support the dock replacements. Pool generates a small amount for the licensing, or sorry, the lessons and rentals of the pool that occur throughout the year. Community center is rent that's generated from renting out the Leo Boylan Community Center, and then the library, the vast majority of which is supported by the town of Prescott. Planning and development, so we have a small amount in planning and development revenues as well as committee of adjustment. And then our academic tourism generates revenue, and you'll remember that the Main Street project was an additional cost that we didn't know we would receive funding for in 2022 and 2023, ending in March of 2024. So that's why you're seeing the increase there. So when you take a look at everything when it comes to just the operational side, and that comes to about $3.8 million, we're increasing it by about 58,000 from budget to budget. And as I mentioned, building permit fees are expected to be higher this year. Our OSIF funding and waste collection fees both are decreasing. And Digital Main Street was a large driver of the increase in planning development. So I'm just going to pause there to see if there's any questions before we move on to taxation. Okay. So
wait, I do have a question. Matthew, there was a letter from Minister Mulroney where they said in that letter that I forwarded to you that we're getting 41,000 for the River Road.
Yeah.
Is that in here?
No, so that amount is over and above whatever would come from the government, and then it goes into a reserve, and then we pay out all the expenses along with our contributions from the other three municipalities. We did note that we're going to have a follow-up conversation with the Ministry of Transportation, just because we want to understand what that number is reflected on, and we believe it should be a little bit higher, but we'll have further conversations with that.
Great, thank you.
Do we increase marina fees annually?
We do, and we slated 3% for this year.
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay. So from a taxation perspective, we're going to talk about the assessment changes year over year, tax ratios, and then taxes by property class. Municipal property assessment is based on assessed values at certain dates. So between 2013 and 2016, people were paying on the current value assessed at 2012. Between 2017 and 2021, it was the current value at 2016. In 2022,
2022 or 2021, those were supposed to change to 2020 values. They did not because of the pandemic. So the planned reassessment was deferred. There hasn't been a new date set as of yet. So the assessment values that we're using today are still based on 2016 amounts. So therefore, there's no natural growth between 2022 or 2023 from those previous years. The only growth in assessment that we have is from new construction or renovations. So when we go to the next page, you can see that there's only minor, about $3 million that the assessment has increased by, and some of those lines haven't moved at all. Also, at the same time, people can put in requests for reconsideration or appeals, which generally has a result of decreasing the assessment in some of those areas. I don't believe we have any appeals currently on the books. The last one that was settled in 2022, and so I'm not aware of anything else that we would expect for this year. So when I talk about taxes increasing by 1%, and it's approximately 50 to 55,000. So if you take a look at our total assessment of 359 million, we would have to increase assessment by basically 3.5 million or more to get 1% more. So it's just to kind of give you a broad understanding of what that looks like. So tax ratios give you the ability, if you do have large changes between the classes, and that usually happens in reassessment years, then you can rebalance the tax ratios so that residential, commercial, multi-residential, and industrial classes are contributing the same amount proportionally. So residential is always considered 1.0, and then so if you take a look at commercial, they pay 1.89 times what a residential, dollar for dollar on assessment. Industrial is 2.63. The province said you can be within these goalposts in terms of tax ratios. They would see 2.63 being on the high end. So if you were to increase it any further, you would have to actually incorporate capping. And what that does is it puts a maximum amount of 5% of increases if you end up going down that road. If you leave it at 2.63, there's no capping, and it becomes a lot simpler type of equation. And really, they don't want you to be increasing past that with 2.63, and so it behooves us to keep it at that, and if the opportunity arises, actually decrease it as we move forward. So what does all that mean? So the 359 million, so in 2022, we would generate approximately 5.9 million just municipal taxes. We also collect education taxes. And so the total amount that we bill out in 2022 was about 6.85 million. In 2023, I should read 23, I apologize. If we go with a 3.5% tax increase, then we would be generating approximately just shy of 6.1 million for a total increase on municipal taxes of 206,000 or 3%. So we already know that the education tax rate is not going to change in 2023. So while our portion might change by 3.5%, the education portion, which is smaller, isn't going to change, and therefore, if you're a taxpayer, a residential taxpayer, your increase is only going to be about 3.16. Now, you're probably all questioning why I chose 3.5%, and we'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. But this is what it means for certain tax categories. So single family home, that's the most number of houses or properties that we have in the federal Prescott. And so an increase on median, and our median means that there's half the properties that are at 157,000 or below, and half that are at 157 and above. And so there's no change in current value assessment, and it would equate to an increase of $78 per year, or 3.16%. Excuse me. So for residential condominium units, again, half are above and below 152,000. The average increase would be $76 in that case. Apartment buildings, we have considerably, they're larger dollar values, so 1.2 million is the median point. And the increase would be 2.2% on theirs. And then when you take a look at commercial and standard industrial, you'll see that those are 2.64 and 2.83. So this is how we got to the 3.5%. So our fees and revenue as we went through is 3.8 million. The base of our taxes were 5.9 million, give or take. At 2.5% is dedicated to inflation, 1% dedicated to property tax infrastructure, and payments and lieu of supplemental taxes as budgeted at 423,000. That gives us a total of about $10.4 million in terms of our total revenue. At our last meeting, we had 10.3 million in terms of total expenses. We add the 1% in for the infrastructure that's saying that we did above. Joint services, the final amount was $3,900 over what we thought it was going to be in our original estimate. And there's the health unit adjustment that their levy is actually $1,900 less than what our estimate was. So all told, at this point, we can balance the budget with everything that we've presented so far with a 2.5% property tax increase dedicated to inflation and cost pressures, and 1% in addition to that for dedicated to infrastructure. If we do proceed with the dedicated to infrastructure, that would be a contribution this year of 337,000 or 338 going towards infrastructure dedicated for that. Which is something that we set out 5 or 6 years ago, trying to add 1% per year so that we can start to build up a fund that can attend to the infrastructure needs of the town. So the wastewater has to balance itself, and as we presented in our last meeting, it was just around the $3 million mark, assuming a 3.5% increase.
Questions for Matthew? You're good, Matthew.
Okay. So next thing that we want to do is go over the recreation complex changes and what that means on budget. So we're scheduled to open for the 23-24 ice season, and I'm happy to report. All users that were at the Leo Wayman Community Center prior to its closing in 2018 have been guaranteed the same ice times at the new facility. That includes the Prescott Figure Skating Club, the South Grenville Liner Hockey, Regal St. Lawrence Kings, South Grenville Rangers, the co-ed hockey, as well as the Old Timers, Aces, and Kinsmen. We have been in communication with over half of those users, the major users that use Stock the most time, and they're all pleasantly delighted to be returning to here in Prescott for usage. So from a revenue standpoint, we have ice rental rates, obviously, that will constitute the majority of the revenue. We tried to develop rates that were a little bit higher than Edwardsburg Cardinal because we certainly want to make sure people are still using their ice. Slightly higher than Brockville Youth Arena, slightly lower than Brockville Memorial Center. So what we kind of took a look at was $165 per hour for youth usage, $195 for adult usage, $125 per hour in the non-prime. Prime is from 4 p.m. to the end of the day, Monday to Friday, and all day Saturday and Sunday. And then if you take your chances and don't pre-schedule and call day of, and you want to rent the ice in a non-prime time hour, then it's $85. So that's what we've kind of worked towards in terms of what that means for total revenue. We'd be looking at an average of about $35,000 per month between September and March. Spring and summer ice for 2024 will really depend on demand. We don't have a good understanding at this point how much demand there is out there. We know that there's possibly demand for April and May. Certainly Peter's off in June, and then very little in July. Start to ramp back up in August, and then we see where we go from there. So also working with Edwardsburg Cardinal so that we can balance it off so that
We want to make sure there's enough demand if we need to in close proximity that we're able to do that. If we don't need to be making ice at both facilities, then certainly we don't want to be running the facility in the middle of summer making ice, which tends to be very expensive. The fitness rooms and community rooms will also generate rental revenue, as well as running the canteen in-house. We're estimating that the revenue generated with that will offset the cost of both food and drink. We also are working towards highlighting local restaurants and food providers. So bringing in some of the offerings from local restaurants and then being able to promote them to say, if you enjoyed this, then, go down to, Red George, O'Keefe's, wherever it might be, Nick's Restaurant, Mr. Mozzarella, Papa Larry's, to enjoy some of those offerings. So being able to bring them in, offer them, and then be able to use it as an economic development driver for some of those other businesses. So when the ice plant was decommissioned several years ago, from an expense standpoint, we tried to decrease our expenses, knowing that we wouldn't have that revenue anymore. So we had a vacant position in the operations department at the time that we didn't fill, as well as we brought cleaning in-house. With the return of the ice facility, we're suggesting that we hire one operations person back that would start this fall. And so because the recreation staff will be dedicated mostly to the arena in those winter months, we need enough staff to be able to support particularly the winter roads, but then we have a lot of summer activities as well that we do, parks and recreation, as well as road maintenance. The other is to hire a full-time cleaner staff person that would work basically 5 days a week, supporting all of the buildings that we have, both the Walker House here at Town Hall, the fire department, all of those to be able to make sure that we're maintaining cleaning services. Also, we're setting up and tearing down different rooms before and after user groups, which we've really seen a significant increase with the Leo Boyven, as well as we finish the second floor here, that we expect that to certainly increase. When we get to the other operating costs, such as utilities, property insurance, and contracts, we expect that to be in the $115,000 range. So we're kind of starting to build the budget as to what that would look like. The town has struggled in the last several years attracting and maintaining a seasonal harbor master or harbor supervisor. And so we reached out to some of our neighboring municipalities that have marinas and recreation facilities and say, how do you have that staff person? And what a lot of them did is move to a full-time person that they're able to oversee the marina in the summer months and then some aspect of recreation in the winter months. And so that's where we see being able to support the activities at the Leo Boyven Community Center, as well as the canteen at the new Alana Chartrand Community Center, would be able to us to add a full-time position without adding any additional costs, because we believe that running the canteen in-house will generate enough revenue to offset that position. So when we take a look at the revenue and expense perspective, we have ice rentals for about $245,000. That's if we would only run September to March. Room rentals will cost me $10,000 and for a total of $255,000. Expenses, if you do this on an annual basis, it won't be this whole amount in 2023, simply because we'll be implementing it throughout the year. But adding the full-time operations staff person back, as well as the full-time cleaner, and then utilities insurance come to $255,000. And then the revenue from the canteen will offset food and salary costs. So that's where we are at this moment. So I think the good news perspective is that we can balance the budget, including a 1% dedicated to infrastructure at 3.5% property tax increase. We can balance the water budget with a 3.5% water and wastewater rate increase at July 1st. And we will be able to support adding back some of the positions that we lost when Leo Boyven closed with the additional revenue supported by the Alana Chartrand Community Center.
Question for you, Matthew, with regards to the arena. In our, when we had the Leo up and running, we were getting some revenue from Augusta Township? No? We didn't, okay.
So I think that discussion remains to be had, but we do have when we originally signed on to the arena as part of the joint discussion that we had with Augusta, and they joined on to our application, that they would be willing to support the operations going forward. I haven't worked that amount in there because I'm just trying to be as conservative as possible, but that will be coming forward later this year.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Armstrong? Yeah. Councillor Kirkby?
Through you. Matthew, when you say you're going to hire one more staff person to work for the new arena, how many staff do we currently have that are going to transfer back to the arena? Are any, or are we just saying?
So we'll have 4 staff members that will transfer back. That will leave only 5 in the more operations side. So right now we have a total of 9, and we'd be moving back to 10.
So, okay, so we'll go there. So at one time, we had some part-time people that worked at the arenas, right? Has that been an option or a thought of, I mean, I know we're saying we have to hire one full-time person, but is there a possibility to use the current 4 that we're bringing back and hire part-time where we're not into benefits and salaries? Or benefits and pensions and stuff like that?
So there's still some additional staff that would require, mostly students, that sort of thing, that were part-time at the Leo. Likely they will obtain jobs through the canteen, that sort of thing. In terms of the operations department, we feel that probably 6 is the correct number, and being able to support that from a roads perspective going forward.
Okay, and just to be clear on the full-time cleaner, the staff at the arena or at the Elaine Chartrand will be cleaning, not the full-time cleaner, right? Yeah, okay. Just wanted to be clear on that. So the full-time cleaner would be cleaning here in the fire department, Walker House, the Leo Boyven Community Center.
The museum as well as the marina.
And the marina?
Marina just kind of at the beginning and end of year to do kind of some of those major cleans that we need.
Yep, okay. Right. Thank you, that is all.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
So if we wanted to do an exercise of getting just below 3.5% increase, like 2.9, what would that entail? Like you have to look at each project or?
So in that case, we either pull it out of the 1% dedicated to infrastructure, or we say that the inflationary pressures we're going to do without. So we're probably, if you're looking at 0.6 of a percent, then we're talking about $30,000 to $35,000. You can come back with options, but as it is, we're pretty tight in where we are.
Matthew, quick follow-up on that question. So in all honesty, a 3.5% increase to a single-family home, which is 90% of our residents, maybe a little less, is only a 3.16%.
Correct.
Right? So you're looking at an increase of $78. A 2.9 may be a few dollars less than that. Right. So it's a 3.16% because of the education year. Yeah.
I might be living in the past, but I should get into cleaning because that's pretty good salary.
Well, there you go. There's that. The salary, that includes the benefits as well.
Yeah.
The benefits is usually about 30% of the salary.
Okay.
Is that correct, Matthew?
30 to 40%.
30 to 40%, right. Any other questions regarding the budget. Now, didn't Toronto just announce like a 12.4%? I think they announced 12.4%.
Yeah, I know Brockville's working away, chipping away, so I didn't know if there's any opportunity for us to chip away or.
So generally, our philosophy is I bring you something that is reasonable and that we've chipped away as much as we can already. But we can go back and take another look. Always the concern is the more you chip away, the first time you have something that is unexpected. So let's say insurance comes in at 10% or 12% instead of 5 or 8, then I'm gonna have to come back and say, we're over. And so that's always the danger when you start paring back to leaving absolutely nothing left on the table.
Excuse me.
Okay, Councillor Kirkby?
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk, one more, sorry, Matthew, about the rates. And I've heard a lot of concern about Edwardsburg and Cardinal, which is good. They have a current, we have a drop-in rate here of $85. I know probably everything is 100% set in stone here, but what Edwardsburg Cardinal offers is a $10 per person drop-in rate. So if there's a school cancellation day or there's a PA day and nobody's really planned anything, I can drive my young lad and his friends down there. And when you get there, there might already be 10 kids. And so now, instead of only $80 the hour, right, you have unorganized use of the ice because somebody's there, and it probably comes out to about $150 based on the 15 kids or whoever are there. So I'm just wondering if that's something that we could look at, maybe is just adding that drop-in rate, because I'll be honest, nobody really organizes as much anymore in advance. It's all last minute, you know, and if I can fill up the truck and take 6 kids down there, there's 60, and if there's already 10 or whatever down there, you've already got your hourly over. I think it's a big draw.
Yeah, we can take another look at that. I think the youth and adult rate were certainly the ones who were trying to get out in front of people as they start to make their decisions for next year. I think the non-prime and the drop-in rate are really up for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Campbell?
Does anybody remember what we charge per hour at the Leo for hockey or?
Yeah, so oddly enough, what we did is we took the previous rates, incremented them by 2% per year since we've been closed, and we were almost exactly where we are today.
Anyone, Councillor Lockett or Councillor Burton? Good? You're good, Councillor Lockett? Oh, he's just frozen.
Sorry.
You're frozen a bit, but that's, I assume you said you're good? Okay, there we go. Thank you. Anyone else for, huh? Yeah, no, I think that was a thumb. All right, thank you, Matthew. I think you've done a great job here getting it down to 3.5. I know initially the numbers that came in were 5, 6, 7%. And, you know, like our joint services committee came in at 18% initially. So are some, don't quote me on that number, a large number. So to get to 2.5 plus our 1%, I think you've done a very good job. Thank you.
We'll skip next week's presentation of the budget to the strategic review. That allows us to line it back with the projects on the 20th. Between now and the week before the 20th, if you have any questions, concerns, want me to take a look at something, want me to address in the presentation on the 20th, then please let me know, and that way I can kind of incorporate that. And if there's any specific line item that you're not sure about or what we incorporate in terms of increases, that certainly helps me frame and get as much information that you need. Okay.
All right. 14 is resolutions, there are no resolutions. 15 are bylaws, there are no bylaws. 16 is notice of motions, there are no notice of motions. No mayor's proclamation today. Do we have any media on the line?
Mr. Zajac, it's line, if.
Yep. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just regarding the budget, I want to make sure I've got the terminology right. So going with the median single family home there at 157,000, I believe it was. Essentially where we're at now is that the increase in the tax levy is 3.5%, whereas the tax rate increase for that residential homeowner is 3.16. Is that how it breaks down?
So we're at 3.5% in terms of the municipal portion of property taxes. Because there's no increase in education taxes this year, then it brings down the total increase for a property owner to 3.16.
Okay, I understand. So it's all about the rate increases. I know in Brockville we distinguish between rate and levy, but so this is the tax rate. Is the 1% infrastructure, is that about the water tower?
No, we started, I believe, back in 2017, putting aside 1% dedicated to infrastructure, and that's for any of our infrastructure. So like many municipalities, or all municipalities in Ontario, we have a funding deficit for the overall infrastructure of the municipality. And instead of hitting residents in any one year with a very large tax increase, we decided to phase it in over 10 to 15 years. And so that's creating the necessary contribution towards reserves to be able to address that deficit.
Okay, yeah. Also known as the infrastructure gap, I guess. Here. What is the target date now for final adoption of the budget?
March 20th.
We're probably, so we'll go through a review on March 20th. And then if council has no further changes, then we would look to adopt the budget in April.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron. Okay. So under item 19, we have a closed session tonight, and we have a recommendation that council move into closed session at 8:10 p.m. to discuss matters pertaining to 19.1 approval of closed session minutes from February 6th. 19.2 is purchase and sale under section 239(2)(c) of the Municipal Act, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And 19.3 is an identifiable individual. Under the same section of the Municipal Act, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And that the CAO, treasurer, clerk, ECDEV officer, and deputy clerk remain in the room. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Campbell and seconded by Councillor Lockett. Yeah, you made it. All in favor? Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute break, comfort break, and then we'll proceed with that.